Hey all, this is Erin, and you are listening to Stop Talking About Fat Loss. I'm here with my team, Sarah and Chris.
What's up, guys?
Hi.
Okay. We have kind of a trigger warning topic today. It's gonna be a tough one, but it's a really important one. And I want you to keep an open mind through this because as you feel triggered, or if you feel triggered, it's gonna be important to kind of identify why and maybe write it down even because this is an opportunity for us to start to look into ourselves, look inward, and figure out what it is that we're doing that's keeping us from achieving and maintaining or sustaining our goals long term. So, today's topic is negative coping mechanisms and the circumstances that lead to our negative coping mechanisms. That's hard to say. Coping
Yes.
mechanisms, and how to be coachable. And coachable could mean if you are driving the route or the path, it could be coachable within yourself, or if you decide that you need help in your health and wellness goals and you hire a coach, how to understand your behaviors in order to be a better client and get a better outcome.
Absolutely. I think we
So,
kind of approach this with a lot of self-criticism, around negative coping mechanisms. And so I want to just kind of put that in there. It's I feel like a lot of it is just our self-criticism just bouncing back at us, and we want to learn how to override that.
yeah, we it's weird. It's a weird phenomenon that I never. So I'm a person who has always enjoyed working out. It's never been a problem for me to get to the gym. I mean, not, I guess never is not the right term, but there's days I don't want to go. But for the most part, going to the gym for me is not a problem. And I know there's a lot of people out there that like find it to be very challenging. My bigger problem was nutrition, and so I had to kind of look at that first too. So you can kind of start with the basics, like what part of this is really hard for you. Oftentimes it is nutrition for people, but sometimes it's getting to the gym or finding time or whatever. And my negative coping mechanism, so hard to say, my brain can't do it, was drinking. And I thought that I was doing everything correctly. I wasn't eating very much. That was another problem, is I didn't realize how much I was under eating. And even though I was under eating, I was still consuming a lot of calories because I was having alcohol almost every single day. And whether it was an excessive capacity or not, it was still 2 or 3 drinks minimum almost every day of the week. And that was bringing me up over the caloric intake I needed. And then also, in addition to that, not eating enough protein, not eating enough fiber, not eating enough in general. All of those things were leading to my destruction and the up and down results I was getting from my body composition. And I had to figure out why I also was justifying drinking all the time by working out. And that was it for me. It was I had to identify the reason why I was leaning into alcohol every single day to get me to feel better or whatever, when I knew that my goal was actually to really feel better and to improve my body composition and to improve the way that my brain worked. Because we know when we're drinking that much all the time, we have brain fog and don't sleep well and all of that. So that's my example. Do you guys have personal examples in your life and your wellness that you kind of identified as stuff that held you back?
I mean, for me, it was similar situation with alcohol. I think this is more common than people realize in the health and fitness world, especially with strength and conditioning and personal trainers, because your hours are awful. So I call the caffeine alcohol trap that you get kind of locked into. So because you work crazy hours, usually you're downing a bunch of caffeine early in the day. But a big thing that my boss always told us was he wanted our first session to have the same energy as your last session. So guess what? If you worked 8 sessions, so 8 hours plus programming, plus your own workout, plus everything else, it's 8:30 at night. You're okay, gotta be the same energy. So you're ramped up on caffeine late in the day, and then you get home and it's now it's time to relax, and you're 300 milligrams of caffeine still coursing through you. So,
Mm,
what's the
my God.
easiest way to chill out? Well, we can either do some recreational stuff that may or may not be legal in some areas, or alcohol is going to be the easiest thing for most people since it's legal,
Or both.
um, or both,
Yeah.
um, or both. So, for me, it was okay, come home and then alcohol, but then alcohol disrupts your sleep. So the next day you're even more tired. So, okay, I'll have an extra cup of coffee, or I shouldn't do the pre-workout, but I did the pre-workout. Well, now you
Mhm.
have even more caffeine. So now that one glass of wine turns into two glasses of wine, and that just spirals after like 3, 6, 9 months of that. It gets worse and worse and worse, and then you're like, wait, one, it's expensive. Two, you just feel like garbage all the time, other than when you're essentially drugged up. You're drugged up on stimulants and um, de- depressive stuff, alcohol and caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah, riding that crazy roller coaster, like having insane high highs on those caffeine like peaks and then insanely low
Yeah.
lows down into those, depressive downer alcohol situation. And that like it's so hard to level out and understand what's healthy for you when you are constantly riding that roller coaster. Like you are just on the ride. And I think that's what a lot of this is we let life kind of sweep us away and we get stuck in the reactionary pattern and we stop understanding the way that our behaviors are initiating these reactions. Like we are just stuck playing catch up. I mean, I have a very, very similar story. I was like working myself into the ground with 2 to 3 jobs. I was throwing workouts at everything because I wanted to justify constantly needing to go out with my friends and order appetizers plus a bougie dinner plus a bunch of dessert plus a bottle of wine plus port afterwards and then whiskey cocktails after. Like I was justifying all of that by working out. And it was like I was beating my body into the ground. I already wasn't getting very much sleep. And then I was setting myself behind by putting more alcohol in my system. But like I was getting those dopamine hits from being with my friends and ordering food and doing all that. And I just didn't understand how that was setting me backwards. And so I was constantly like, well, I work out a lot. So why isn't my body changing? I just thought that I could just like fix everything by working out more. And there was no amount of working out that was going to completely negate the fact that I was abusing my body with my alcohol consumption and not sleeping. There was no body composition change was going to happen there. And I mean, when I finally got to kind of like pull back the curtain and look at my health, in this grand scope, when I finally was able to kind of bring a coach into my world, I was like, oh, that was never going to work. And I have to figure, like, I have to do some kind of what I like to call like shadow work. It's a very kind of like woo woo way of talking about it. But yeah, I had to like start working on me, like mentally, which I think is kind of the talk that we really want to have today, to understand like why do I feel the need to fill my time with spending, like the entire night in the bar after I've worked from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. throughout the entire day. Like, why do I feel the need to do that? And once I finally started kind of sitting back and doing that work and getting back in touch with how can I be as healthy as possible, that was when body composition change started to happen. I don't know why are words so hard today. Struggle
Yeah,
bus.
it's it's an interesting phenomenon and we see it a lot and it doesn't necessarily have to be drinking. Like
Mm-mm.
I know in my circle there are people who'll just get sick or something mildly bad will happen to them and they for some reason give up their health goals. That happens so frequently. It's like, well, I just can't do any of this because X happened. And it's weird that we have allowed ourselves to believe that our health and wellness is like an additional stressor, and that's where I think we need to start to shift how we think about it and create a better system to be able to incorporate it all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to like hit the gym at all costs. It's not like the do or die or grind or die mentality. It's more like you have to eat all the time. So if you're leaning more into whole foods and high protein and high fiber, as opposed to like thinking of your nutrition in extremes, only dieting and only doing whatever the hell you want, that's still living healthy. You can still do that. It's like, I think we had an individual come into our coaching program and was injured immediately upon like starting, and she almost like didn't really even allow herself to get started. And it's like, yeah, you can't go to the gym and lift, or you can't go running or whatever, but you can start to modify your nutrition. And we live in this like really weird all or nothing mindset when it comes to health and wellness, because we believe it has to be hard. And I think that is part of our like negativity bias or our self punishment or whatever creeping in, is the thing that it has to be really hard or feel painful almost in order to be effective. And if we can't allow ourselves to be in that pain, or if we have pain in other areas of our life, we let that pain take over the pain of fitness and wellness, which is like, it is so far from the truth, but that's how I lived with it too. Like, I liked working out, so that really wasn't hard for me, but I had to do a whole 30, or I had to do extreme keto, or I had to do like, it couldn't just be like, hey, why don't you just eat a little bit better and drink a little bit less? Like, it's just a wild phenomenon that we allow ourselves to live in like two separate camps. And like, if we're in pain in another area of our life, that's enough pain, and we like, god forbid, we eat a little better, or even just drink water or go on a walk. Those are things that like are very easily accomplished in our almost everyday life, that we'll just like give, like, you throw your hands up in the air, like that guy, the office guy meme. And it's like, I'm just done. I'm gonna like, I hurt my wrist and I can't go to the gym, so I'm not gonna eat good. I'm gonna drink to cope. I'm gonna drink to drown my sorrows, and I'll get back to this when I feel better. And it's like, that's how fitness and wellness stops, and that's how like we continue on this cycle that's never going to end, until we decide that it has to be something that we can first identify what the negative, like that trigger that makes us want to cope with negative things, and then override those things.
And figure out how to nourish that instead.
So often people just focus on what they can't do, like especially with injuries. I saw this so often when I was a personal trainer, of like, my wrist hurts, or like elbow tendonitis pops up all the time with people, especially since we live with a bunch of golfers and tennis players around here. So elbow tendonitis pops up, and they're like, oh, I have tendonitis in my left elbow, stop the gym. You have two legs, you have a core, and you have your right arm. Like, we can do other things. We can still work out. Nope, stop the gym. And like you said, now they're just not watching their diet. They're not portioning things because they're like, why even bother? Then they come back 6 months later, like, oh, I lost all my results. Like, yes. You know who got all the results? The person who kind of in the same situation, but they continued. Like, we modified the program. We never ask ourselves, like, okay, this injury happened. What can I do? I've had that where, like, I've had a really bad knee injury to my left knee. I've had multiple back injuries. And if I was just like, oh, guess I can't do anything, better stop. No, it's okay. What can I do? Can I use machines to train my legs? Because I can't bend over. I can still do upper body. I can sort of do some core work. Like, we just change things. You have to think through it, though. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do this exact thing, so therefore not worth it.
I'm not doing any of the things.
Wipe out everything. Yeah.
Why do you think it's so hard? Why do you think it's so hard for people to think outside the box? Like, why, if you can't, you hurt your knee. One time I had a lot of tequila and I fell down and literally broke my ankle at a holiday Christmas party. And I went to the gym 2 days later with my freaking boot on. And my trainer at the time had me on the rower to warm up, and we just put my boot on a slide, and I was able to, and then I could lift upper body until my ankle was healed. But and that was, I didn't want to miss the gym, and so I was unwilling to allow that to just completely drive me downward. But it's really difficult for people to think that they can, yes, you can do stuff. And you know what's also crazy about this? The medical community will tell you not to. Like my
Mhm.
Western medicine doctor that helped me like with the x-rays in the boot was like, yeah, you probably shouldn't work out for like 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm like, what? My whole ass upper body was fine. My other leg was fine. I could move still. And then my physical therapist was like, you can still do stuff. Like you could probably even squat if you wanted to. Like it technically wasn't broken. It was a very, very severe sprain. But he's like, if it doesn't hurt when you're standing up with your boot, like you can squat a lighter weight and you'll be fine. And so that's like, that's also like they are perpetuating that cycle. Like I didn't need to be off my feet for 6 to 8 weeks. I just needed to adapt to what was happening with my body for 6 to 8 weeks.
Right. I mean, I think this goes back to kind of that transactional view of your health and wellness. We're still looking at working out as this transactional thing. Like I can only do it in this capacity to get what I want. And again, that's like just it's such a disconnected view on how just moving your body, affects your health, or just doing the simple things affects your health. I think we're very, very disconnected with how the individual foundations stack up to create a healthy lifestyle. And so when we can't do the entire CrossFit WOD, we're like, well, then why would I even do anything? I'm going to sit on my butt and feel bad about myself about my injury instead. And that's its own coping mechanism, right? Like sitting and letting yourself feel defeated and just tell yourself that if you can't do everything, we might as well do nothing, because what's the point? Like that's an entire defeatist mental pattern that we have to get away from. And we do want to like really, really push okay, I can't do this, but what can I do? We need to modify our view away from that transactional mindset and just go, how can I take care of myself given the set of circumstances? We're not going to change the way that the cards were dealt. Obviously, we can't hit the rewind button and make it so that the injury never happened. But what we can do is work with the injury moving forward instead of thinking that we constantly need to work against our body. There's an entire world out there for us. And it's like, so I hate to take it to this extreme, but sometimes I go, okay, hurt my toe or hurt my ankle, whatever the heck, is a smallest little minuscule thing, hurt my wrist, whatever. And then I look at like the Paralympic, like Facebook. I'm like, people literally don't have legs and they go out there and they run marathons. Like, I do not want to be the person who's like, I stubbed my toe, I can't go to the gym. Like, to me, that just like, that takes all of the power away from myself. And like I had to start like thinking about myself in a positive light. Like, I can do this no matter what set of circumstances. I am strong enough to overcome this. And I think that we've just been beaten down by so many extremely restrictive dietary protocols and extremely just difficult workout programs, stuff that don't account for any leniency, don't account for being a human. And we take that and we internalize it. And so when we can't be perfect, we don't even try. I think part of it is just like the fitness industry has conditioned us to think about it that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because we are we want to achieve a certain goal, but only in the right condition.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where we fall short. And this is a good plug for coaching, and part of the topic is being coachable, because you can learn how to override the negative things that are happening to you. Like Chris said, easily, his knee was injured, and he could go to the gym and still do upper body or still modify legs in some capacity. Like, somebody probably helped you understand that over time. Like, yes, you're educated in the industry and whatever, but like, we're not just born knowing that. We're not just born knowing what to do. So having someone to help you understand that, actually, if you're injured and you don't understand how to fuel your body correctly for the goals you want, it's a really good opportunity to just start there. and learn how to do that, and then work your way into the gym space. You don't have to like go from zero to like gym 5 days a week and eating ground turkey and rice and like that's not how it has to look. You have to learn how to like do what you can do and slowly modify that into the person that you want to become. The person that you are and the person you want to be are like worlds away, but the small steps in between get you there. Like the big ones, I would argue, really don't. You, for every big step forward, you take another big step backwards because we're trying to do way too much, or we'll override ourselves with excuses like I hurt my wrist and so now I can't work out or eat healthy or go on a walk or do anything. Like that's what that leads to. But if you're like, I have a hurt wrist and I want to start feeling better, so I'm not going to be able to go to the gym and lift, but what I can do is just go on a walk every day and start eating a little bit more protein. And then like that is a couple weeks long and you've lost a few pounds and your wrist is better and you're like really stoked because you lost a few pounds, and then you're ready for the next thing. And that's how change happens. And that's how we override the negative coping mechanisms, as opposed to being like trying to overhaul the whole system or just giving up completely when something doesn't go our way.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, like, think of it as like two people walking towards a point of destination, right? Like, two people are looking to get from point A to point B, and they start off on like a moderate jog, and then they both kind of hit a log and they get kind of injured at some point and they fall down at right about the same point. One person's going to completely stop and go, I'm injured, can't finish. And then they never get to their end goal. And the other person goes, wow, that kind of sucks. I'm going to start crawling instead. Or I'm going to fashion a boot of some point so that I can, maybe they need to take breaks, but they find a way to keep going. One person gets to the finish line and the other person doesn't. And we have to figure out how to be the person who gets to the finish line. You can get there by crawling, you can get there by tiptoeing, you can get there by literally dragging yourself just with your upper body. But what we do is we make it happen. Like we can't, I think that's the beautiful part of coaching, is that we don't take things for face value. It's not just yes, no. We kind of live in that in between area. We go, okay, yes and no. I might not be able to do it in this capacity, but I can change my mindset and attach it to, a different capacity. I can come up with a different game plan. I can keep going. It might look different. It might not be ideal and it might not be what I planned for. But I mean, how many times in life do you actually get everything like 100% on plan? Literally never. So why do we expect that of ourselves? Zero of the time.
Yeah.
So many times things don't go according to plan. Like it's
Right.
It's rare that things go exactly according to plan. More often than not, it's okay, we had to modify these things along the way.
Yeah. But we made it happen.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I think that's even more of that's a bigger win to me. Like even if it didn't look the way that I wanted it to, like we overcame these big obstacles, and that like it puts the power back in your journey. Like I started to feel excited about myself again when I started overcoming obstacles. I think we're just so, I don't know, defeatist. I feel like I want to like coat everything in like sugar sprinkles and rainbows and stuff. Cause I'm like, can you just be like more positive, please?
But that's just, like, also what popular culture promotes. Like,
yeah,
you have mommy wine culture. Like, oh, you're stressed, pop the bottle, pour out a big old glass of wine. You have, I guess the guys' version is video game culture. I'm not sure if you guys see something there, but okay, spent 6 hours playing video games, got nothing done other than Call of Duty, and now you're wired from dopamine the entire time.
Yeah.
And then you just go on social media and it's complaining. Like all I see is negative stuff, or people so far out of reach, like because it's a highlight reel, like celebrities and fitness models, the extreme. And then the next post over is like someone complaining like the economy sucks.
Yeah.
Scroll, here's how I make $50,000 a month. And if you can't do this, you're a peasant. Next thing, I'll never afford a house. Like, yeah, of course you're going to have a negative mindset if you're listening to all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe not avoid that stuff. Maybe figure out like, hey, this is not good for my mental health,
It's
and
not.
adjust.
Yeah, I think you like hit the nail on the head too. It's the climate of what we are absorbing that is leading us to believe it is okay to live in this complacent way, and it's not. And we don't ever really challenge ourselves. I was reading an article about parenting the other day, and there's no argument that parenting is hard, but they was saying that the reason why people find it to be so challenging, like way beyond what they even imagined it to be, because it's a commitment that you can't let go of, and you can't be complacent. And
No.
that's there is literally no other thing that's really like that, because we can, like, if we don't really like our job, we might have to have a job, but we can get another one. You can't just like get, you can't have a baby and like 3 years down the road realize like this is not for you and get rid of it. Like, I'm sure you could, but it's kind of frowned upon, I think, in most circles. And so that, like, if you I that blew my mind a little bit, because I was like, wow, it's if people committed to fitness or wellness or their health in the same way that they commit to parenting, that it's kind of a similar journey. It starts out really overwhelming and hard, and then you realize that it's just part of who you are now. If you're
Mm-hmm.
a mom or a dad, you are just that forever. For the rest of your life, you are that. And if you decide that you're a fit person, you are going to have to go through the same kind of mental battle, but you can't get rid of your kid. So you have to kind of like put yourself into that place too. Like, I want to be fit. So even though it feels impossible to go to the gym today, I'm still going to make it happen. Like, it seemed, your kid was up all night and you're like, I can't even get out of bed. I'm so tired. But I need to feed this child. It's kind of in the same limelight. And both of them are like extreme examples, but I just thought that was really interesting, and like kind of it blew my mind a little bit, because it was like, yeah, it really is. I mean, you can get a dog and rehome it. You can move if you don't want to be in the place you're at. We don't have anything else in our life that we are so connected to that we like have to figure it out. And that's kind of how you have to approach your health, is like, I like don't feel like it today, and nobody's making you do that. You have to make yourself do that.
I think that's a really, really important thing to talk about, is that identity shift that you have to kind of embrace. Because if you constantly think of your health and wellness and your fitness routine as just things that you do and not who you are, you will never feel connected to your journey. You will always be obsessed with what the scale is doing and your pant sizes and your waistline and like all those things. And we as coaches, you hear us talk about it all the time. We're like, please ignore all that stuff that has nothing to do with your health. Like that's just perpetuating that. You're not actually going, like, doing that shadow work, like I said, and going, who am I? How am I attacking as an individual my health? How am I treating my body? How am I living my life? And until you actually make it a part of yourself and your identity and build a routine that serves that, you will always think of your fitness as a job, as a list of things to do. And so it will therefore always be very easy for you to take that to do list, crumple it up, and throw it away. Like, people a lot are like, how do you do it? How do you do this? I was like, I became it. I built the life that I wanted, and now I cannot see myself living my life in any other way. I don't want to. This became
Yeah.
what I love. Like, it's who I am. I built the person that I wanted to be, and I encourage everybody to look at the way you eat, the way you treat your body, and the way you live your life as like an extension of self. How do
Yeah.
you want to be treated? How do you want your body to be treated? And start treating it that way and really internalize it, because I think that that's the only way that you find that switch, that click, that magic button that everyone is searching for. You have to really, really identify with your journey and get in it and do the work, and not just look at it as a to-do list.
Yeah. Like, treat it like it's part of you.
Right.
Yeah, for me, I know I don't have to think about, am I going to work out today? It's
Yeah.
when when am I going to work out today? And a lot of people, it's just that extra, like you said, on the to-do list, like go to work, get dressed, eat dinner, blah, 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 work out. Well, I didn't get to these 5 things today, and working out was one of them. Maybe we'll try tomorrow. And don't get to, well, the list is just too long, instead of, okay, it's a non-negotiable. Like, we are doing it unless like something crazy happens in her life. But most people have time for 15 or 20 or 30 minutes here and there to get a workout in, even if it's early morning or late at night. And I think that's another thing where I used to have conversations with people who would cancel the gym membership because this, this might trigger some people, but the stay-at-home mom crowd is some of the softest people because
Mm.
it would be, I can't get to the gym at my 9 o'clock or my noon. Okay, well, we open at 5:30 a.m. and we close at 8:30. I can't work out that early, or I can't work out that late. Like, it was just automatically no.
Yeah.
These are my workouts times, and if I can't make that, absolutely can't do anything else. I'm canceling my membership. Like, wait, what? So only if it fits. Like, and this would happen with teachers too, because they would be off all summer. They'd come to the 9 o'clock class, and then they go back to work in the fall. Oh, well, I'm too tired in the evening, and I can't wake up any earlier. So they would just cancel their membership. And it was just weird to see. And again, I made a vast generalization. So for the listeners, we had some stay-at-home moms who were absolute beast. But I'm just saying, as a general, like our 9 o'clock class, you want to know where all the drama and the people who got the worst results were? It was the 9 o'clock class. Best results in the gym, 5:30 a.m. class. The last class of the day, 6:30, 7:30. Those people, because they had
Yeah.
they were doing it not because they necessarily wanted to be there at that time, because they had to be there at that
That
time.
was that was the last time
Yeah.
like that they could get it in. I think that falls under the being coachable bit. If you come into a space and you're like, I want this thing, and we're like, okay, that requires a little bit of change, and then you're like, I want to change. I'm like, okay, then your results aren't gonna change. I don't. There's like a really big disconnect there. It's very weird.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Is that like everybody wants this extreme result or a pretty big result, but are inflexible to change. And this is huge. I mean, it goes, like we can generalize the people, but Chris isn't necessarily wrong. I talked to a lady yesterday who was like desperate to lose weight. And then we talked about going to the gym, and she literally was like, I have 2 kids. I can't go to the gym, LOL. And was like, what? You can ever, never, and like in the entire week, you can't go to the gym, or you don't want to. It's inconvenient because you probably can. And so like there's a reason why you haven't reached your goals, is because you are inflexible and you are not creating the opportunity for yourself. And you don't necessarily have to go to the gym, but it's like, okay, if you're not going to, then get on Amazon and buy some weights, buy some like adjustable dumbbells, and make that a priority, or like start building out a home gym. There are options that you can like, and the options are like across the board different investment levels too. So it's not like
Absolutely.
a Planet Fitness membership is $10 a month, or you can spend a couple $100 or even a couple $1,000 on some gym equipment for your house. Either way, it's going to be like a benefit to you depending on what you want to do. But a lot of people will continue to make excuses like, well, there's a lot of gyms that also have childcare, right? And I know a lot of parents in my wheelhouse that love that. They'll go 2 hour, like 2 or 3 hours, whatever the time frame is. Like there's a limit of how long you can leave your child in the daycare, but they'll go for that whole time because they get a break. So maybe that's an option, is like finding a gym that has a childcare that's fun and the kids like it, and you have a few hours to yourself to do whatever you want. Maybe sometimes that's just like sitting in the steam room, and maybe the rest of the time it's getting your workout in. But like you have to figure that out. And in her case, I would argue that she just didn't want to go work out. She wanted me to give her a fast method to lose the 15 pounds or whatever that she wanted off. And I told her that she needed to get her ass to the gym and eat more. And she didn't like those answers. And so she's probably asking some other random coach on the internet because I don't know her. She was just in my business page on my DM. So like that, and that cycle is going to continue, and she's never going to get to the where she wants to be because she is the refusal to figure out 30 minutes a couple of times a week to get a weighted workout in to get the actual results that she wants.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's like a lot of in between from there too. Like it can start, like, I mean, depending on how young or how old your kids are. I have someone who has like a little tiny baby toddler. Just like, I'm really struggling to get steps because I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm with my baby all the time. And I'm like, have you ever like looked on YouTube for like fake games? Where it's literally just kids jumping around on the screen and it looks like they're playing a video game, but you are like jumping around together with your kid. I'm like, why don't you do that? That's like a 20-minute long video. You're on your feet, your kid's entertained. They feel like they're doing an activity with you and you got your workout in. And then they're like, oh, but how is that going to work? I'm like, that isn't the thing that's going to get you your direct results, but it is a stepping stone to get there because right now you're not carving out any time. But if you put on a silly Just Dance YouTube video and spend 30 minutes dancing with your kid, there you go. There was the 30 minutes that you weren't working out before. And then that 30 minutes grows into, while your kid does a Just Dance video, you have your 3-pound dumbbells over in the corner doing some squats, whatever. And then eventually, when that isn't heavy enough, you add more weights. It builds out from there. Like, do not sleep on the in-between steps. I think everybody sees it as, oh, I don't want to be going into the gym and doing kipping pull-ups and like rings on the bar. I'm like, I don't want to do that either. But there's several, probably like dozens of steps in between that person and that future crazy CrossFit person that you're just totally skipping. And since you don't see that for you, you're just not gonna do it. Like, okay.
Why do we go from sedentary to CrossFit always? That's like literally people's mindset. They're like, well,
peeve.
I can't. You sit
I
on
can't
the
do
couch
pull-ups. I'm like, I can't either.
like, you can walk 30 minutes a day. You don't necessarily have to like commit to CrossFit WODs. Like that isn't the progression of doing nothing to like, that's not, I don't even work out like that, but I've never done, I have done Murph and it was terrible and I was sore for like 2 weeks. And so I never want to do a CrossFit workout ever again.
I would get that all the time. People would come into the gym new, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. It's like, that's fine. What? You haven't worked out in 30 years and you are 50 pounds overweight. Why do you think I'm going to put 135 pounds on your back? Like, we're going to start with, here's a 10.
Yeah.
Can you even squat to a box? Right. Can you do a bodyweight squat to a box? Can we do a recline row with a TRX? Maybe we start there. We're not doing one arm push-ups, skipping pull-ups, and then barbell cleans. Like, what?
Yeah. Those are extreme.
Yeah.
It is the mental, like that is what people think. I would get that conversation when I was training in person all of the time, which is funny because I never even posted anything like that. You'd think, if I was doing CrossFit or whatever and I was posting that would make sense. Like I can't do what you're doing, but I would post some heavy weighted lifts, but I always got that. Like, I don't think I can do X. I don't think I can do and insert some extreme exercise here. And I'm like, okay, no, we're going to just start with mobility. We're going to get you, like, maybe we walk around the block.
Right. Some good compound lifts.
Yeah. We're going to work. Yeah. We're going to see if you can like squat correctly without like lifting up your heels too much. Like those are the things you have to start with. And then you add a little bit of weight. And then like if eventually your goal is to be a CrossFit athlete, that's cool. But like, you can't start from couch to CrossFit. That's not really a thing. And you don't have to. You never, if you don't want to do that extreme of training ever, you don't have to.
Oh yeah. That goes right back to like the setting the realistic expectations. Like zero, like there is no part of the fitness journey where you get like a Rocky style montage and all of a sudden you're like this elite athlete. Like no. It's like really boring, mundane kind of work
Yeah.
in between. And the hard part is facing kind of like that negative mirror view of yourself, and kind of constantly needing to shape those little minuscule steps. That is the hard part, arguably. You
Yeah.
guys, I think everybody thinks that it needs to look hard in a specific way. Like, nope, it has to, two plate barbell bench press or nothing. Like, but what the hard part is actually going, oh, like these are the circumstances that my life has dealt me, so I have to dial it back in these certain ways so that I can stay in the journey. Working in those minuscule baby steps, I believe, is the hardest part of the journey. It doesn't seem like the hardest part, but we're sleeping on how those minuscule daily changes, like having one less cup of coffee or switching some of our nutrients around, really is, because it those foundational things rock us as much as we want to ignore the fact, but those little tiny things, they do. They layer on, because I think just in this specific society, we're we're a bunch of just really busy, high functioning individuals, and those little tiny changes, they are so, like, we're operating with so much stress. A tiny feather can bring the house of cards kind of tumbling, and that's the hard part, is we have to stop letting those tiny things rock our entire world and figure out the tiny baby steps to overcome those things.
Yeah, you're building a foundation. That's what people forget, is like we want to lose weight, so we feel like we have to go from couch to CrossFit, but there's a whole foundation that you're missing in between there. Or we're building little baby steps, little baby stones or pebbles on the way to becoming that, if that's what you want to become, or just a more fit version of yourself. I think it's probably primarily really challenging for men who are trying to get back in shape, because they're I don't women are intimidated at the gym, but we don't have as much pressure of like be lifting super heavy or looking bigger. Like women, I want to have muscle, but a lot of times women want to look smaller and toned, where men want to look like muscular and bigger.
Huge.
And so for a male going through this, it like, and we'll revert to Chris for this because I am not one, but like if you like you're next to like this jacked dude at the gym who's like bench pressing 2 plates, and you can only do 30-pound dumbbells, like, and those, like, nobody gives a shit also what's happening to you at the gym. I literally fell down in the squat rack the other day and nobody even looked up from what they were doing. So if you think people are looking at you at the gym, they're not, even if you fall on your face and leave your knee skin all over the squat rack. So but that, I think that's the perception. And I think it's important. We have primarily like female clients and female listeners, I think, but I think addressing the male, like, I can't think of the word, but like it's different than
It
what
is
a
a little bit
female,
different.
like, yeah.
Um,
Tell us about that, Chris.
well, for most women, again, vast generalization, generally it's lose weight and just with a little bit of strength training, like 5, maybe 10 pounds of muscle. Like most women are going to be pretty happy with the way they look. For guys, it's it's the weight loss, but then it's okay. Now I want to get really strong and I want to get really big. And that takes a really long fucking time. So it's not just 5 pounds of muscle. It's something like 25, 30 pounds of muscle, which is hard to do. For someone to do it naturally, it's very difficult, especially for older males where that testosterone level is going down.
Yeah.
It's easy to maintain if you have it, but if you don't, it's going to be a long, long time with very dedicated nutrition, very dedicated training program, unless you have great genetics to reach that. And I would see where we would have extremely fit women in the gym, but then a guy, it's his like first week, and you would see all the insecurities come out because he's lifting way less or he's trying to keep up with the women. Like, dude, these women have been training for 8+ years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
you're going to puke or get hurt if you try to keep up with them. Do not do that. But no, they would just insist. And then a lot of them would that'd be the last time I would see them. Like, dude, like, is your ego so fragile that if you haven't taken care of yourself in 2 decades, these women have been training for a decade, you can't keep up with them, and that destroys your ego? Like, in like 2 months, like you're going to be lifting heavier than them with the upper body. Like, yeah, they're impressive, but for women, like they're floor pressing like 50s. Like for a guy, that's like in 2 months you should be doing the 60s. Like
Yeah.
you're 220 pounds or heavier, like you'll be doing more than that. They're struggling with the 50s. You'll be fine, but
Yeah.
they can't. The ego thing I would see all the time with men of like that gets in the way. And then it's like, well, my ego gets crushed there. So I'm not going to do anything at all. Like personally,
Yeah.
that's like the least masculine thing. Like,
Oh
oh,
my
I'm
gosh.
really out of shape and I can't be the quote unquote protector and provider. Like I'm just not going to do anything at all then. Like what? That's a little
Women
ass
let
backwards.
ego get in the way too in kind of a different like capacity. I was having a conversation with a client who was like doing really, really well, hits her foundations most of the week, is really strong, really, really loves getting into the gym and is starting to really embrace her journey. But it was so funny. She like rated herself like kind of mid on her goals, and she was like, like I feel okay in this past week, I just like I know that I can do more and I'm just not. And I'm like, hold the phone. I need to put a timeout on that, because like your ego is telling you you're not doing enough, and even though you're seeing beautiful results, your body composition is like the healthiest it's ever been, you're feeling super strong. Like literally just last week you were talking about how you took a picture of yourself and you were so excited to see it and you were so stoked to push the 50-pound dumbbells. And then now this week, because you feel like you're like quote unquote not working hard enough, all of a sudden you've hit no goals and your fitness journey is garbage. Like arguably your ego does not belong in this workspace at all. Because it's ruining your perception of what is actually going on. Like I don't think that I know anybody else except like, hardworking individuals who go, well, I can do more, so I'm doing nothing, I'm doing such garbage work. I'm like, can you like actually, do you hear yourself right now? Like just because you're not like extremely hitting every single goal and getting gold stars across the board, like you're doing nothing? That's insane. Give yourself a goddamn break.
I found women
That's
a lot of
me.
times downplay their result. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it's all down. Like they're not allowed to like celebrate things. Like, wait, what?
I'm
Yeah.
like, get out
We
of
need to
here.
be we need to be working harder. We need to be doing better. We need to be doing more. That's me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And like I will constantly berate myself, and I've finally like at 41 have gotten myself to a place where I'm like some weeks it is okay just to go through the motions, and that is still progress, because a prior version of me wouldn't have done that. I would have given in, or like I probably would have gone to the gym, but I would have ate pizza and drank wine the whole time. And now I don't. And that is still an accomplishment. Some weeks are like, I'm not going to hit failure every single day at the gym or PR a lift. It like, it doesn't have to be this extreme. And I think it's cool to mention both sides of it, because there are people who are unmotivated and like need help just getting started. And then there are the people on the opposite end that are like overly critical of the actual good work that they're doing and overly critical of their body composition, and they've improved their body composition like tenfold and maintained it, and even though like they're not exactly where they want to be yet, we're like, well, if I would have just pushed a little bit harder, maybe I'd have better results. And it's like, no, you like, we have to account for life in both situations. You have to give yourself grace if you have a week that you just go through the motions, because that's huge, but you also have to give yourself grace if you like can't get to everything that you want to get to, if you are on that end of the spectrum. And that's definitely where I'm at, and it's hard for me to like forgive myself for needing to take rest, which is also problematic.
Absolutely. I mean, I was in the same boat I'm like, I can do more. I'm not miserable at this yet, so clearly I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
And it's like so not a great way to look at it. Like, it shouldn't feel like that. It's okay for your life to just be like neutral, sitting in a neutral space and to feel safe there. Um, Arguably, like, I mean, this is kind of getting to kind of a more like philosophical place, but I think that kind of had to learn just based on my life before this that like it's okay to feel mid. It's okay to have
Yeah.
nothing going on and to just be living a life. Like admittedly had kind of, a dysfunctional childhood. So like, I was living that roller coaster ride, like kind of touching on what Chris was talking about earlier, either like being super hopped up on caffeine or like feeling a really low. Like the way that I grew up, that was my life. I was either riding really high highs or riding really low lows. And so now that I'm like a functioning adult who knows how to eat food and knows how to like sustain a normal movement schedule, like my life is pretty mid. I don't have like a big roller coaster life anymore. And that took its own adjusting. Like my brain
It
for a
does.
while was like, are you okay? You're not experiencing extremes. So like, are you good?
You're not getting the dopamine highs followed by the anxiety panic attacks.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was its own kind of like thing that I had to deal with mentally. Just that had nothing to do with actual fitness, like on the board. Again, that shadow work. Like I had to, like, yeah, Sarah, it's okay to live a life where nothing happens. To have a week where nothing extreme happened and you didn't result to some extreme, crazy thought pattern, that's a good thing. I had to teach myself that that was a good thing because I think, that's where a lot of self sabotage comes from. That's where we go and they're like, I had no idea why I decided to eat an entire medium pepperoni pizza. But it was like, we have like kind of these old mental, like chemically, these brain patterns that go, oh, I have to start self-sabotaging because where is my crazy dopamine hit from overcoming this crazy obstacle? And so I had to deal with that, on my own journey. Like you can, like your life should kind of be pretty mid so that you can handle the spikes of stress that come from the things that you can't control, like, just crazy life circumstances, your job, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
let's learn how to like operate like in this middle area.
Well,
Yeah, I don't think people they don't understand that, especially we always are searching for like the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
but like the outcome could just be like doing it every day and
Yeah.
not expecting it to like I that was me the second half of last year is like I had a really rough October. Like three good friends of mine passed away. I moved, my dog died. Like it was a rough month, and I didn't feel like going to the gym. I was in a new town, it was a new gym, everything was awkward, but I went. And I'm looking when I look back at it now, those days that they were a lot of them were shitty workouts. They were like whatever I could do, but I just got there. But I think now after I finished the cut that I did in January and I started to like feel a little bit more comfortable with my body composition because I was also like just stressed and so my body was inflamed and mad and I like there were times where I was like I there's no point in me doing this. I like I hate it, but I just I like it's so a part of who I am now. I just showed up because I knew that like not showing up was going to be a million times worse. So you don't want to do like get 4 or 5 months down the road and have completely given up on a huge piece of who I was because I was grieving and stressed and all the things and uncomfortable in a new gym space. And now I'm like, I those mental results that I got from just showing up, even though, and it like I said in the beginning of this, I love going to the gym. And so for me, being in a place where I was like, I hate it. I don't want to fucking go. I like sat in the gym parking lot one of the days and cried. Like, but knowing that I had that opportunity, like to get through that, no, like I also believe now that I can like pretty much get through anything. And that's the other thing I think about fitness and wellness is like, if you push yourself when shit isn't going right, you're going to end up in a way better position when things are going right.
Mm-hmm.
well, on the same note, a similar note, I should say, not the same. Um, when we look at how the body responds to stress, your body kind of responds to stress the same way like when we train a muscle to get stronger. Like as we adapt to we can adapt to higher and higher stress loads. If we think about like early in our lives, like high school is the most stressful thing ever. As like high school, you look back now, it's like, oh, the SAT test was nothing. Like that was nothing compared to things later on in life. Like, oh, then college is like, oh, that was the most
So true.
stressful thing ever. It's like, and now you look back and you're like, that was nothing. So we can adapt to higher and higher stress loads. Well, exercise is a stress and it can help our bodies adapt. So by working out, by being consistent with that, you can help your body manage those other stressful times in your life better. It's an interesting thing, as long as you give yourself enough time to recover. But you can make yourself more resilient to stress, which is why sometimes you see these military guys, like they just can handle super high stress loads. Well, and still work out and everything. It's like, well, why? Well, they adapted to this very high stress situation. They're very physically fit. Things were very hard for them. And now it's like, okay, well, things are hard, but is it that hard? But a lot of people never
It's
experience
temporary,
that.
right?
That
Yeah.
too.
It's temporary. Like it's hard now. That's what I love about fitness. And like I'm kind of miss, and I'll never go back to this, but I kind of miss marathon running for that reason, because it's like, this sucks, but it sucks for like 6 hours and then you're done. And if you're like the entire time, you're like, if I can get through this, I basically can get through anything. And that like makes you a more resilient individual for everything that you do.
That is something that I will say about distance running is it did teach me how to apply just progressive growth to my fitness journey. You know, it just really taught like, cause I learned with long distance running, I started from like literally a couch to 5K app. I just wanted to do a color run here in Flagstaff. And so I went from literally not running. I was the type of kid who like tried their hardest to get out of the mile run in high school, like every single time it came up. I hated running. But for some reason, I got it in my head. I was like, you know, if I run a 5K, I'll look fit, right? Cool. So couch to 5K, got that done. And I was like, this really freaking sucks. And so what did I do? I signed up for a longer race. Really annoying, but I like decided to do a half marathon. And what I learned actually was that really I only hate the first 3 miles of running. I got like in my groove with running and it felt really good. And my really great pace started coming around mile 6, 7, and 8. Those were my beautiful miles.
Yeah.
I loved mile 6. It was great. I was warm. I was happy. I would like start jamming out. And then, you know, as I got to the, you know, that latter half of the half marathon, that's when I started to dwindle. And it was like, wow, that is very, very interesting. It was just something that like kind of unlocked this mental headspace within me that it was like, oh, it's not that I hate running. It's that 3-mile chunk is not great for me. I am more of a long distance runner. I need a long time to warm up and really understand my body and build on that. And from there, you know, my fitness journey really, really blossomed. And I want everybody to kind of open up that thought process and go, this very specific thing might feel a little weird, but if I let myself learn and grow within this space, I might find a capacity in which this feels really awesome. And it might not look the way that I thought, but as long as I stay dedicated to this and like, you know, kind of keep chipping away at it, I'm going to find the diamond amongst the coal, right? Like I am going to find the way that I love moving my body. Something is going to open up. It's really all just about learning. And if you continually like turn the dial up to 11, tell yourself that you hate it, and then remove yourself out of the fitness space for another 6 years, you're never really going to find that diamond. You're never going to find that way that you love your body. So like it goes right back to that being coachable bit. Like learn to dabble, learn how to kind of just peel back the curtain a little bit and find the way that you love and let yourself learn it.
Yeah, find what you like to do as opposed to what you think you have to do.
Uh-huh.
It's
not distance running.
No, for me either. I was not like, I did not find my love for it at mile 3. I fucking hated it the entire time, but I did it because I said I was going to do it. And I ran a full marathon one time, and the entire 26.2 miles, I was pissed, but I was at Disney, so that kind of helped.
Yeah, I
Yeah, the
don't.
castle is motivation.
It's not my thing. It's not my thing.
I don't
But
miss
I
my long
like,
distance days.
but we all, it's funny that most fitness people have that. Like, we all thought we had to like run a bunch to get fit. And we realized that we don't. If you like running, run. If you don't like running, you don't have to run in order to get learn from me and my bone damage.
Yeah, please, God. That, like, if you love running, that's so great, but that's a very specific sport that you need to train very specifically for. Please get a coach.
Yeah.
That's my plug.
Yes, get a running coach who's going to go over your diet. Like, so many
Feed
injuries
you, yeah.
with runners. Like, they would come in like
Yeah.
because they didn't have random, totally off topic. But when I did cross country, like, our coach hammered running technique. We did running drills. So people come in like, how's your foot hitting the ground? Are you driving with your knees? How are your arms swinging? Like, we hammered technique. And most people just, I'm just going to jump into running because I can put one foot in front of the other. And that's how a lot of injuries pop up. So make sure that if you're getting into running like you like it, get somebody who's going to go over technique with you, because it'll make you a faster, more efficient runner. Like,
and fueling, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
your
all
body
kinds of
will be
things.
happier
Yeah.
if you get a coach to coach you through it.
yeah, you will run faster. You'll have less injuries. Things will be more fun, especially if you're like crushing your mile splits. Like, nothing's better than like, okay, I come through and like, wait, what's that mile time? Oh, shit.
I know. Honestly, my mind was blown when I started really looking at that. I was like, wow, my mile 8 is like really fast.
Yeah.
I've
really
never,
cool.
the furthest I've ever run, I think, was 10 miles. But I only ever trained for a 5K. So we never had to run like that far. But to your point,
A
like
bunch.
the warm up, like, we used to run 2 or 3 miles as a warm up before a meet. Like, our race is 3.1 miles, but we would run to warm up 2 or 3 miles, because guess what? Like, those later miles are where you like really get into a groove and you're good at pacing yourself. And it never, like, my best 5K was like a 17:45. So it was like a normal
good.
day was like
Yeah.
a normal, my average was like somewhere in like the 18s for my 5K time. Like that, but that was,
Sorry, that's still.
yeah, first mile
That's
was
still great.
5:30. Like, that was the goal, is 5.5 minute first mile.
Crushing.
Go.
Damn.
Yeah.
That was never me. My first mile was like ambling on. Like, okay, Sarah, you can do it. Oh, that's hilarious.
But then I'm still like middle of the pack at that point. Like, again, this is high school, but there's
it's
people
true.
like our top runner was crushing in like 4:15 that first mile. Like, it was
That's crazy.
wild to see.
my
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You're like, wait, what? How? That's so fast.
That's so fast. Well, we live in a running town, so you see those people all of the time. Just like, they look like beautiful, like gazelles, just like crushing. It doesn't even look hard for them. Those people are genetically like capable of that. I wasn't. And they look like it too. They're long and lean and beautiful. Like, that just wasn't my body composition, and so I couldn't run. Like, their limbs look like they were just built for like moving quickly.
There's definitely a runner's body. Like, that's
exactly.
very
For
long
that level of
legs.
running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's some where like you're probably going to end up with more injuries than not if you do marathon training.
Me.
I found it.
It would be Erin.
Yeah, the girl that I can put on muscle. That's what I should have been doing the whole time, but I didn't know. So, but we made it there eventually.
You got it.
Well, we're at an hour, you guys,
Oh, shit.
which is crazy.
Okay.
We I think this was a good conversation, and I hope that you all appreciate it. And like I said in the beginning, take some time to reflect on this and write some stuff down and look at yourself and the reasons why you have given in before, and see if you can override them within yourself. And if you need any help or support, reach out. We have free shit in the bio. So if you need any help with nutrition, fill out the form, grab our macro guide. And if you like the podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and you would rate us and write a review and share it. We're trying to get the word out and help more people find themselves in their health and wellness. So thank you guys for listening, and thank you, Sarah and Chris, for another good chat.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.